we're in a series this week, week 2 of a series called Uncertain, about faith and doubt and how they work together. So we're gonna just have a conversation what that looks like. You guys ready?
Yes.
Let's do it. So in this next series, this week 2, we're talking about identity. And one of the questions I want to ask you guys is, when you hear that word identity from culture today, what comes to mind? What triggers come up in that? So Maddie, you want to start us out?
I feel like a lot of times when teens say, we ask that question to them, they're like, well, I identify as like a girl or a boy, or I'm gender neutral, or like my anxiety or depression defines me. And I feel like it's really hard sometimes when you're like a Christian follower to be like, no, like Jesus defines you, when culture tries to shut that down.
Totally. Kate, do you have anything you want to add?
People like to show off their fancy homes, or their fancy cars, or their really nice clothes, and their money if they have a lot of money. So I feel like those can be huge things.
What do you think would happen if all those things were taken away? There's nothing there to define you other than yourself. There was no more sports, the friends were gone. How do you think that would affect the world today?
I feel like that would make us feel like nobody, or useless maybe. But that's why if you put your identity in God, it'll never go away, so you'll always have it. You'll never have that feeling.
So as we've been talking about identity, we've been talking about the things that we put our value in, whether it's music as a musician, it's us as an artist, maybe it's us as an athlete, all these different areas that we put our value in. Maddie, when we talk about labels, we have this idea that when they're gone, we don't know who we are. Can you talk into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I feel like if I were to have the title like a jock, which I'm totally not, if I had that stripped away from me, I feel like it would feel like my life is completely over. But when we identify as a Christian, and when we identify as I put all of my trust and all of my love into my relationship with Jesus, it can never be stripped away from us, no matter how hard people try.
If there was someone in the room tonight that is struggling with their identity, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say just be patient. I mean, you might not find who you are overnight, and you might also, God made us all for a purpose. So if you're doubting who you are, don't feel like it's right, just be patient, and God will show you who you are.
And Peyton, for someone who's I don't know if I believe in this whole God thing, I don't know what it is to believe in him, and just confused on where their identity is in Jesus, what would you say to that person?
We are all here to help, and we'll answer as many questions as you have. So I would just say to find someone and ask questions, and hopefully we can answer them, and just know that we're here and loving. So
that's awesome.
Let's give it up for our students in these videos, because it is horrible sometimes to hear your own voice recorded. It is not fun to always do that, and these students did that, and they went for it, and we are so proud of them. If you don't know who I am, my name is Hannah. I'm one of the teens residents here at Ransom Teens, and I love you guys a lot, and I'm so glad you're here. This week is week 2 in our series. What's it called? Uncertain. Right, Grayson? Yep. Awesome. So this week, that's right, Sean. Pastor Riley talked last week about faith and doubt, and how they can deepen or it can decrease our faith, and what's it look like to move and to put ourselves in deepening our faith. And as y'all just saw, some of the conversations between the leaders and students, we're talking about something called identity. Who's heard of identity before? Is this a word people know? Sweet. So these next couple weeks, we're going to be kind of looking at 3 questions. Us as a staff has been digging into this book that talks about who are we? Where do we fit? Where do we belong? We have these big questions that I think everybody asks in life. And tonight, like you said, we're talking about who am I? Where's my identity? Where does it fit? And I think we all have different definitions of identity, right? So we can have different definitions, but tonight we're going to be looking at it. Some people see it as gender or sexuality or what defines them. And tonight we're going to see it as our view of ourselves. How do you look at yourself? What does that look like? And it's a normal part of vocabulary nowadays. When I was in high school, I wouldn't say that I had many conversations about this. I wouldn't say it's a normal conversation starter or in my vocabulary. But when I was in college, we studied this a lot. We looked into teenagers. If you didn't know, I actually studied youth ministry, so I studied you guys, all right? Because that is what God has called me to, and it is crazy, and I love you guys, and you are so much fun. Weird all the way. Yes, Reagan. Get it, girl. I love you, Reagan. So we've been studying this book. It's called The 3 Big Questions That Changes Every Teenager by these people named Powell and Griffin. Really great people. But tonight, like I said, who am I? So who am I? What's my identity? What defines me? All right, if you don't know me, my identity, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a pastor, I'm a woman, I'm single, I got a lot of concussions, and I'm an athlete. And I can't be an athlete anymore because I got a lot of concussions.
Sure you can, they just can't know.
People would know. So it's not just one thing that defines me, right? There's a number of things that go into who I am that play a part, and it's not just this one thing. But if we start placing our identities in these different things, there's this constant movement that's happening. There's this shuffling of cards. Well, when you're around your friends, you act a certain way. So around the friends, maybe you're the talkative, maybe you're the leader. But then when you go home, maybe you're more shy and reserved. And then maybe when you're on a sports team, you're like, I'm on volleyball, I'm going to spike in everyone's face, and you're super aggressive. But then when you're around class, it's like, oh, you're the class clown. So there's this constant movement that is happening, and it can be exhausting. It's a lot of work. And there are 4 different statements we're going to be looking for identity. And the first one is going to be what others expect. I am not blank enough. Number 3, I am my image. And number 4, I am more than my label. We're going to be digging into those tonight. I'm really excited to do this with you. So number 1, I am what others expect. This has to do with our influence, kind of what I was talking about earlier, where our areas of influence, whether that's home, whether that's in school, whether that's in show choir, whether that's on the field, wherever that is, wherever your influence is, people expect things from you. Maybe your parents expect you to get straight A's, so you work hard to get those A's. Maybe your parents expect you to have a touchdown every football game, every time. Maybe your parents expect you to have a solo, every musical, anything. And that's exhausting, to try to fit others' expectations into your own lives. Moving group to group, changing who we are with different hats, we're moving around. And we never feel like we can be fully us in one space sometimes, that we hide a little bit of who we are. I remember when I was in high school, I hid a little bit of my Jesus self depending on the people I was around, because I didn't want to be as seen as a Christian kid all the time. And so we take these bits and pieces depending on who we're around, and we try to fit into the puzzle of that group, right? The second one we're looking at, and this one is very true for me, is I am not blank enough. Okay, you filled that blank with what fits for you. There's so many things. Maybe it's I'm not pretty enough. Maybe I'm not cool enough. I'm not funny enough. I'm not athletic enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not curvy enough. And that can even lead to other things depending on who we are. So that can lead to race. I'm not black enough. I'm not white enough. That can lead to cultural. I don't fit in with this culture group enough. And I think for me and myself, like this leads to comparison, and it's really hard. For me, the blank was always filled with I am not smart enough. So earlier I talked about those concussions, and that defined me for a long time. You see, I have 8 to 9 concussions on my head. Can't play sports anymore. No. 8 to 9 concussions. When I was in college, I had a letter of disability because I have so many that I actually have a traumatic brain injury. And if you don't know what a concussion is, it's been either I hit my head on something or something hits my head really hard and my brain moves in my skull and bumps the bone and it gets bruised. And it can affect you in many different ways. I live with headaches every single day. And because of this, it actually has affected my learning and how I learn and my ability to learn. So I went through middle school, high school, college thinking that I was stupid, that I would never be able to go to college in my life. Never. I was not smart enough. I couldn't organize my thoughts on paper. You read the papers and it's skipping around because my brain's moving so fast. And I never believed I was smart enough. I said I'd go to college, but I never believed it. But the crazy thing is, I stand before you today with a college degree. And I proved myself wrong. I didn't let this lie that I believed define me. And God actually pushed me forward and showed me what I was capable of. And it's changed my life. The next one we're looking at is I am my image. How many of you remember when social media came out? That's right. That's right. Yes. When I was 14 years old, 2010. Who was born in 2010? Anybody? 2010. That is when Instagram came out. 2007? We got any 2007s in here? We got a couple. That's when Twitter came out. I was 11. What about Snapchat? That was 2011, 2011. We got any 2011s in the room? 2011. That is when Snapchat came out. I was 15. 2004. Do we got any 2004s in there? Y'all Facebook babies. That's when Facebook came out. All right? So for me, I didn't know what a social image was. I didn't know how to create this social media image of who I was. I actually rebelled when I was in high school. I rebelled and I was like, I don't want to be like everybody else. Okay? I'm not getting Twitter. I'm not getting Instagram. But then I did my senior year of high school at 17, 18 years old, and I had no idea what I was doing. You can go back on my history on Instagram, and there is some weird stuff. There's a picture of me in overalls saying, overall, a good day. You know, getting punny with it. That's what I would post. It was weird, and I had no idea what I was doing. But you guys, this is your world, right? You don't know a world without social media. And so social media has changed the game of how we view ourselves. We want to fit in. We want to be on point. We want our drip to be on point. You feeling me? We want to be up with the latest dance moves. We want to know what's happening. We have a personal brand. You know, all those pictures with the same filter. We got to make it all look aesthetically pleasing. You feeling me? And we want to be set apart from others. We show the cool things we do, the weird foods we eat, the cool places we go, all the fun things we're doing with our friends, and we create this manufactured life. And a couple weeks ago, actually, I was babysitting, and there were some neighborhood girls over, and these girls were probably like 10 years old, and they were playing Barbies. Okay, I used to play Barbies as a girl, and you make up all these fun things, and it's imaginary, and this girl said, with her Barbie, I'm going to take your picture, and you're going to get 1 million likes on Instagram. You get it, girl. And I was like, this is imaginary, and they're talking about social media? That's crazy. That's a crazy concept for me, that even at a young age, we care what we look like to others. Not just in person or who we have conversations with, but what we look like on social media. That's part of the image today, and that's something some of us adults don't fully understand. But that's the world you live in, right, guys? And it's hard. The last one we're going to look at is I am more than my label. Now, labels can be positive or negative. It goes both ways. And right now in the world, it's all about self-identification. Another way to look at it is I get to say who I am. You don't get to place anything on me. I get to say who I am, right? And then sometimes people can group us together. And under the view, there's this constant search for authenticity. We stand out from others. We want to be different. Everybody plans to wear black. You're going to wear white because then you're going to stand out and be like, oh, who's this girl? She's standing out. She's not like everybody else. And so when we fall under being seen in these labels and under these areas and wanting to be set apart from others, sometimes labels can lead to stereotyping. And that's no fun. Stereotyping are the idea or things of certain characteristics that are the same, but that can also lead to discrimination and bullying. It can be a dark place to have a label. There's Priscilla Schreier, who is this Christian speaker. She's a pastor. Her dad's a pretty famous pastor, and she says, God has already given the definition to our answer. And yet our society and culture is trying to redefine what he has already said. You see, we find things to be true of who we are and how we could see ourselves. Our identity can be thrown, and it's confusing, and we're moving all the time. And we doubt what God has created. We doubt what God has made us and who we are. But he has spoken over us and prayed over us before we were born of who we are. See, the question is, who am I? It's not a new question. This question has been around for generations. I'll tell you right now, everyone in this room, from students to leader, has struggled with this question. It's not new. There's nothing new under the sun. We've all struggled with this. We've all been there. And I think Maddie said it really well earlier, is that when we place our identity in the world, it's an empty pit. It falls, nothing can fill it, and will fail us every time. But when we put our identity in Jesus, he never seems to fail. And so as we read through those 4 different views of ourselves and those questions that we hold, like for me, the I'm not smart enough, that really rings true for me, but there might be another one in there that rings true for you. And I think we need to look into when we take those doubts and we have those questions and we apply faith, what does that look like? How do we figure that out? Where does faith play the role in my identity doubts? And like I said, literally thousands of years ago, God spoke of who you were. He addressed it. But more importantly, whose you are. You see, throughout the whole Bible, it's addressed from the beginning, the Old Testament to the New Testament. And so we're going to dig into some of these answers to these statements that even though when we try to fill them ourselves and we feel the gap, we try to put ourselves and we try to fill it and explain it away, we never feel enough. And that's because we're not enough. Amen. We're not enough. But Jesus is. He's enough. And he has plenty to say about who you are. So let's dig into that. You see, in Genesis, the first book, in creation, he said, so God created mankind in his own image. We are made in the image of God. In Psalms 139, it says, I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. He woven us together in the depths of the earth and in our mother's womb, and he saw our days before us. In Ephesians 2:10 in the New Testament, it says, we are God's masterpiece. Anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. In 1 Peter 2:10, it says, you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. You are God's very own possession. You see, you are an expression of the image of God. You are not a mistake. You are a royal priesthood, a holy nation. You have the presence of God inside of you, and you're an overcomer. You are chosen. You are called. And it's not what people say about you. It's not what you say about yourself. But God created you specifically and intentionally to be you. Nothing less. See, when we doubt our identity, we doubt ourselves. We doubt God's creation, and we play into the enemy's plan. You see, but when we take that doubt and we apply faith to it, we are an unstoppable force that is living into who we are created to be and who we're called to be. And we're going to get ready to head into groups and have some conversations, and there's some things I want to say to you before you do that. And that is that we can have all these things we talked about earlier, sports, friends, family, school, all these different areas of our lives that we play into, but it's a part of your life. It's not who you are. You see, when Jesus becomes our identity, it flows into every part of our life. So it can be, I'm Hannah, I'm a child of God, and I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a pastor, I'm a woman, and Jesus flows into those areas. Those areas do not define me because Jesus defines me and I'm his child and that is who I am. And he fills that. There's no more switching hats needed. There's no more depending on who you're around, that's where you need to fit. Because your worth and value comes from Jesus. That's where it's at. So this is what I want to say to you before groups. No, it's okay to ask hard questions. This is hard stuff to wrestle through. Let me validate that first. Ask the hard questions. Have conversations. Know that this is a process. It's so easy to say, I put my identity in Jesus. And it's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And it means that it's a process. It's not a one-done thing. Jesus, yes. It's something that's surrendered to him constantly and brought before him constantly. We need to declare that over ourselves and remind the enemy of whose we are. We might need to ask for help, and that's okay. And I want to ask you to be honest with yourself and with God, not just with others tonight, but with yourself of where you are. You're not alone in this. We all struggle with this. You are so loved. Know that you are loved. So I'm going to pray, and then we're going to be able to head into groups. And if you need to know where your group is, it's going to be on the screen. If you can't find it up there, just ask me. You can come on up here to me, and I'll help you. So, Jesus, we come before you tonight, and we just ask for vulnerability and transparency. We ask for a place of protection around this place right now, Lord, and we pray that this is a safe environment. This is a safe place to have conversations, Lord, and I pray the enemy has no place in that. We thank you for who you are and what you have done for us and that what you have called us as your children. We give all these things in your name. Amen. All right, you guys are dismissed to groups. If you have questions about groups, come ask me. They are on the screen if you need help. Thank you. Thank you.